Hello everyone. This is going to be just a general discussion about tools and methods of mind control. So the first thing that I want to mention, how you would manipulate somebody or how we're being manipulated. Well, first of all, a lot of it comes down to fear. Out of fear, which is disconnected from comfort, which if we were connected with ourselves, we would be comfortable. We would have the power within ourselves to not feel like we have to obtain something externally. We would more of be comfortable with who we were as a being. So a lot harder to manipulate. So fear is, if not the only thing, one of the biggest base to a lot of the tools of mind control. And not self-mind control, I control my own mind, but how you would control a species' mind, another person's mind. So time, first of all, the more you get into conspiracy and occultism, then you're going to get into astrology and realize that a lot of the tales we've heard, like the Bible, there's a lot of astro-theological principles. And there's a lot going on with the stars and planets and how that energy reflects itself here. And one of the biggest practical things we can look at is just how people would have known when to plant their seeds and harvest crops and things like that. And we can look at the female reproductive cycle and look at, or the menstruation cycle, and look at how that's in sync with the moon, and we're 80% water, and the moon has so much effect over water. And if you look into David Icke's material and other people, he's not the only one tapped into it. It being the last thing that before light gets to us, kind of. So if you can manipulate that, then you can manipulate a lot of the life on the planet. So Saturn is Father Time. Chronos is a lot of other different names, and represents, like everything, has dualistic attributes. Wisdom in the positive, age and wisdom. And the negative, it's death. All things are subject to time here and will return to the earth. So a huge construct of our manipulation is time. And they condition you to be, I wouldn't say mindful, I'd say fearful, or this concentration on time when we're in school, with being tardy and things like that. You have a work schedule, and you better not be late, or else you get points, you get this, and if you get so many, then you might lose your job, and that's a bunch of fear. You have so many hours in a day, and most of them we're just giving ourselves away to so many things that we don't have time for ourselves. And the time that we would have for ourselves, because we're lacking feeling something purpose or whatever it may be, then we be addicted to shopping, getting a bunch of knickknacks, shit we don't need, cars, video games, whatever it might be. So time is a huge one, and that's even well, we're wasting time, sitting here and being impatient. The only person that they can't take all of our time. We can only waste our time. If you're learning something, you're learning something. If you're waiting in a line, we could be doing breathing exercises, full body breathing from the diaphragm, visualization, whatever it may be. So time is a huge one. Going back to the past, reliving pain, suffering, reliving the same thing over and over. not moving past it, not learning the lesson and moving past it. Going back and saying, man, this should have been done or whatever, and being attached or tethered to a part of the timeline that's not serving anymore, and just creating negative emotions, ones that you can't build off of. In the future, fear of how something won't work out. It's another thing that takes you away from the present moment to where we can actually have more power and influence. People getting older, not seeing anything past death, maybe believing there's a cessation of consciousness or going to hell or whatever it may be, whatever other illusions. You get older, you don't want to age, and then because there's a lot of blind people that don't take care of their health, not being in good shape, and then attributing it just to their age. When you've got people who are like 100 years old doing Tai Chi every day and could probably kick my ass. So time is a huge one. And I can't even really get into the depth of it. So I'm not really adept myself. It's just a general theme here is what I'm going for. Just some notes I took of things that affect us on a day-to-day basis. So another one with that is scarcity. And that's generally everything. Emotional scarcity of feeling good, scarcity of food when the planet is abundant and we're not using free energy, technology, it's being suppressed, and we're not using the potential of what we have here to harness the abundance, because we can be controlled out of the scarcity. In the monetary system, the debt-based monetary system, and the food industry. Scarcity of goods keeps us suppressed, keeps us in that fear-based survival thinking to where we're more reactive and predictable. So thus, when the elite, the globalist or whatever, are using problem, reaction, solution, we're not using our potential as infinite beings to create anything in our inventive, creative imagination, but rather that reactive, primal state of survival thinking, which is very predictable. So scarcity ties in. A lot of these things tie in with each other. The time, scarcity, information, scarcity on information. We're giving a lot of bullshit information. One of the biggest things that if we look in our history, when there's been a genocide of a race and there's been reintroducing of a new, establishing the priest class, the religions, and all those systems, they rewrite the history. They rewrite the past. And you can go so much more into this. The information is huge that we have access to. Now, obviously, we have the internet, but when most of us are encouraged to not ask questions and our minds have been molded a certain way, and we're not even consciously inside of ourselves aware of ourselves observing the situation, then we're more reactive and following the trends and stuff and watching porn or music videos or whatever it may be that's not really serving us. So we're not really accessing the huge database that we now have, well, most people. So that's a huge one. The ley line control. Now we are based the body we're occupying, our vehicle is based on phi, spirals and circles and symmetrical. We really do like order, comfortable in an ordered environment that's symmetrical, not distorted. But we don't have our houses, the cars, even primitive technology, because it's based in maintenance, having to maintain something instead of just having long-lasting things. But the layout plan, we could harness some of the geomancy and have beautiful environments that are laid out in a certain way that is more that will flow more with the energy of the earth and everything else. And there are buildings on ley lines that have been built essentially by the slave classes to um, harness that energy and basically perform rituals and send things out from those control points that influences so much of what happens here. So that's a huge thing. The ley line manipulation, and of course that's reflective in the body with the acupuncture points. So, and even certain things like the earth chakras with our chakras, and there's a lot going on with the ley lines. There's information in like Stonehenge, these different places. There's information in the rocks, and it's like you can go there and, if you were open to it, receive some of that information and so much more. There's a lot going on with that. Obviously, the food that we eat and how that affects our minds and affects our bodies. And again, that's information, lack of information, scarcity. We're not growing our own food. We're not in touch with it anymore, and people aren't encouraged to grow their own food because Monsanto owns 90% of agriculture, and they're genetically modifying it, rewriting the DNA, and all the things attached with that. So that also goes with the scarcity of land because we don't own land, and if you do, you have to pay for it. And scarcity of money. The government, owns the land. So, and of course, there's going to be so many themes intertwining in these topics that someone could argue not really understanding the anarchist lifestyle of organized volunteerism and all these other things, and would debate that and say why we would need to control another class to get them to perform a certain function and all these things. So it really depends on your point of reference, even hearing some of this, because this isn't a presentation to where it's like A to Z laying everything out. So it's just rough general discussion on some of the things going on here with the mind control. We've got the food, and you get into all that, and the pharmaceutical companies and the medical industry, how they make so much money treating the symptoms, and how it keeps us from basically keeps us on a dense frequency, and the carnism with the hundreds of millions of animals that get killed every year, that we're just raping the earth, just taking more than we can give back, and how that imprints the energy field that we're in with this. You are what you eat, so we're eating slave food. It's been cloned, a lot of cloned meat, and all the processes of what happens to the meat, and all the fear that's in that animal. We're consuming the fear and all the karma of that. And then what is karma? That's just the law of cause and effect. That's just how things get imprinted with a certain energy, and it's not a good or bad thing. It's cause and effect. If we take something into ourselves, then it affects everything, because everything is a frequency that we're seeing. We're seeing it's a frequency, and it contains information, and what gets imprinted in that will become part of us. So that's a huge one. Then we've got the money, which is huge. That's one of the biggest control mechanisms, with the talisman magic, and how the paper itself holds a binding energy that perpetuates our desire for it, how it's green to associate with abundance and healing, and all the funny things going on with the money. Obviously a huge one, and it being just a piece of paper, it just represents our time and energy, resources, and we could tap more into the resources and get much more out of that energy source than what we do for raping the earth, taking it, and then getting the money. And then even the money is also a reflection of our currency, the electrical currency that we are, and how we like attach our energy to it, and they take that, and I mean, ugh, fuck the money. We've got to do something about this. And one of the things that we can do is simply manage it, be more in touch with where it's coming and going, and use it as wisely as possible. Invest it into things that will build, rather than just putting it back in circulation of the bullshit. Materialism in and of itself is just, it's just so ridiculous how disconnected we are. And I mean, even saying this, I know how much I still am, because I'm born in this. I'm born in a world where people see things a certain way, and where a lot of us are sheltered from seeing a lot of the other parts of the world and what's going on there, and how some people have it, third world countries and all that. But we can see this definitely is, even though this is my perspective here in America, this is still a worldwide thing. This is our history as a human species, and what life is, and the nature of reality, and all the different things working here, the Elohim, Anunnaki, reptilian, demigods, and astral beings, and things that living under the surface, and clones, and synthetic humans, and all of that. It's more than even global. I mean, this is big what's happening here on the earth and what we are actually taking a part of. You're not going to feel it if you don't see it, if you don't feel it, if you're not connected with it. And so that's a lot going on right there. And we've got the chemtrails with HAARP. So we've got frequencies in the basically affecting the ocean of energy we're all in. How does that affect our moods? How does that affect our emotions? How does the carrier signals that go into some of these, the Wi-Fi and ELF frequencies, how is that affecting our thinking and our feeling? This is where the meditation can have great effects, because we can really get to the source of our thoughts, where the thoughts are being projected from and where our feelings are coming from, and then we can identify them and not be so reactive, but instead of be observant and have more power, rather than a female who is a very fast thinker, small attention span. And I say female, I get to why, okay? Is because with the moon, with the menstrual cycle, around that time with the chemical imbalance and things like that, and you've got chemtrails in the foods and all the things that affect the emotions, can be, so reactive on that surface, instead of breathing and getting to the center of everything and really having a place for it, and then choosing more of. Now, I say to female, or my experience with the lady being on that time in the cycle, I see it, but it is a serious thing. And how about the high-profile rituals? How about things that they're doing, like at the Super Bowl with Katy Perry and in the music videos and stuff? What is that imprinting into our fields? What is that imprinting into our being that affects the subconscious, and then we become a conduit for it without even realizing it? What's going on with all of that? When you see Beyonce or Lil Wayne or these other people, and their faces change and looking demonic, that's a thought form, that is an energy that you can maybe attach even more to an emotion, that is like embodying the person, and then it's coming through and projecting into people, imprinting into their auric fields or whatever. That's a lot to consider right there. A lot of the things we're watching are weaponized against us, so we have to have the conscious awareness so it doesn't have as much effect. So Hollywood. What about the fluoride in the water, and how that affects our emotions and makes us more docile and acquiescent? There's a lot going on with the fluoride and calcifying of the pineal gland. to take into consideration. Religion, one of the things externalizing our power, where you look at something that you need to attain outside yourself rather than empowering yourself and then moving forward with that. Even on the science realm, the dry mechanical science that doesn't consider a lot of spiritual things because everything's physical. So you're missing the whole source to the physical expression and what the higher correspondence of that is to that thing. So there's so much going on here. You know, I just took just some notes about some of the tools of mind control, and I'll really organize this better and then maybe present something that's a lot more than just kind of me rambling, I guess. I'm working to improve the best that I can making these videos, so if you're getting something from it, awesome. If you're not, maybe kind of bear with me. I'm gonna do whatever I can with this, put more time and attention into it, and make these videos better and offer what I can. So with all that being said, I'll see you soon. Wholeness and Balanced Vibrations.